So, if you are a type 9, self awareness journey is not really something you totally love to do because nines are known to be what's called asleep to themselves because they don't like conflict. Now, this type of all nine types is the most conflict averse, which means they don't want to have self awareness journeys because then that causes conflict amongst themselves and it interrupts their innermost peacefulness. Let's find out how we can deal with this and what this looks like further. What are the strengths? I love my type nines. I'm actually married to one. Welcome to the Real podcast, Women, Moms, Real Estate, and the Enneagram. I'm your host, Melody Wilson, a certified Enneagram and real estate coach. If you're a high-achieving realtor mom looking to find balance and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of women, real estate, and the Enneagram. Join me as I provide Enneagram insights and practical tools tailored specifically for women in the real estate industry. Together, we'll uncover strategies to navigate the unique challenges and opportunities and find harmony in all areas of your life. So, yes, I'm married to a type 9, so I have a lot of experience with nines, and it actually took a while. It was quite funny, actually, how he figured out he was a 9. For one, it wasn't him looking and reading and learning about all these things. It was me, the type 8, reading all of the types and asking him questions over and over again. Is this you? Is this you? Do you relate to this? Do you relate to that? And fun fact, they relate to everything because they just feel like they're all the things. They don't want to cause a disruption. They don't want to cause disruption amongst themselves. They don't want to cause disruption with their loved ones, the closest ones they are to themselves. So it's really important that type 9s really start that journey because it actually is important. Their voice is actually really important. And that's something I really want to emphasize today is that if you are type 9 as you're learning this, just know that your voice matters. And if that really just hits you because you feel like you're not ever heard or your voice isn't important enough, you are important and you are very important. And when people who are type 9 speak, I always say, listen, because they don't speak that much. So make sure you hear them out. So we have gone through in previous episodes the Enneagram University guide that I use to go through the core types. And then I talk about their challenges, their struggles, some strategies we can put together, how this looks like for your real estate business and YouTube specifically. So, like the others, we're going to start off with the core qualities. The type 9 core qualities, their biggest core fear, we've already talked about this, is conflict. They also don't like being overlooked or dismissed or unaccepted. Their core desire is to have inner peace and stability. They just want stability. They don't want things to be messed up. They're also really easygoing and they have this peace about them. Now, I know for my husband, he didn't relate to some of the more feminine wording of the Enneagram. And that's why specifically I've kind of adjusted it so that if you are not relating to the feminine language, you can understand you're still possibly a type 9. Type 9s also, their core weakness in here, they call it sleepwalking because they're asleep to themselves. And I just call it the fact that their biggest core weakness is that they're not paying attention to themselves truly. They think they're paying attention to everyone else, so they avoid conflict, but in reality, they're actually not paying true, deep attention. Because at the end of the day, it's super important to understand who you are and not get lost in everyone's definition of who you are or who you should be. I know that these types can look like other types. So, like I said before, the Enneagram, all the numbers are kind of related. And so you may resonate with some of the things I say, but then actually you're a a type 3, because threes also avoid conflict like the plague as well. Type threes also don't know who they are because they're always morphing to whoever's around them because they're really good with people, but their motivation is to accomplish something there or to make that relationship. A type 9 is not necessarily morphing. They're just trying to keep the peace and they don't want to rock the boat. So type 3s sometimes will rock the boat accidentally or maybe intentionally. Type nines also need to understand that they have a core longing, and the core differentiator is that they have this like literally inner sanctum. They are, because they're such peaceful people, they give off this peaceful aroma, I want to call it. And someone like myself who's go, go, go all the time and intense, having that type 9 presence is so good for me. Now, when you're married for a while, it might drive you crazy because the things that attract you at first might end up being annoying to you. But I know that in the years that we've been married, I've been learning to appreciate that more and more. And it's pulled me into the place where I can rest, and it's helped me grow as a person. So I really like nines because they help us slow down. In real estate, we're so busy all the time. Nines are also really great at understanding and being spontaneous as well. You just got to be really careful that you don't take advantage of them because they are so understanding. So some of their strengths are they are accepting, gracious, others affirming, caring, flexible, open, and non-judgmental. They make incredible friends with their kind, supportive spirits. They naturally help others feel seen, comfortable, and at ease in social situations. They actually see all perspectives, and that's a really big strength of theirs. They may not see their own, but they see everyone else's, and that's a really big strength. And they do a great job of mediating tough conversations and creating peaceful environments. This is also very handy as an agent because you know that we are dealing with a very stressful process. So, whether it's the buying process or the selling process, a type 9 agent is really able to make those clients feel comfortable and at peace as long as they're providing the experience and the knowledge. They're able to just, they're naturally wired to be able to help them. Now, the struggles that they may have, especially in the agent world, you're not seen with a ton of energy. And that can be misunderstood sometimes as not not enough energy, therefore you're not a good fit for that client. And so they maybe they equate that actually with a lack of confidence. But your quiet spirit doesn't necessarily mean you don't have confidence. So you may want to consider, how can I project more confidence in my quietness? Because there is a way to still project your confidence without being untrue to yourself. Type nines, really, I think you don't want to be a fake version of yourself, and just learn, how can we be more authentic to ourselves, because in your attempt to hear others voices and be hearing everyone else, you forget yourself, right? So we don't want that happen. I know I've seen this too. When a type 9 is overwhelmed or mentally exhausted, they literally zone out. They'll find things to do to keep themselves busy, and it seems like they're functioning. But when my husband is like, he doesn't use the phone, which is, I know, crazy, right? But scrolling on phone or vegging out on Netflix and just doing it excessively, that's a sign. Also, for my husband, he just keeps himself really busy with like house tasks, which you think still need to get done. But I think you need to be careful as someone who, if maybe you're not a nine, to be aware of what does your type 9 look like in stress. Maybe your colleague is a realtor and they're just no longer engaging. They are just mentally not there. So they're physically present, but their minds are asleep, disengaged to everything around them. And they sometimes feel like their presence doesn't matter. So I think it's important that we recognize our type nines and remember to reach out to them. Remember to say hello and check in and see how they're really doing. They may say they're fine. And so maybe you just need to have more conversation with them. Type nines, you need to do the people justice and actually talk to them too, and just be more open. But obviously, you're probably thinking, well, I have nothing wrong with me. So what would I share? You can just talk to them. And as you do self awareness work, then you can share that with those closest to you. And then you can actually learn to understand that you can receive love. You can assert yourself. It is okay. And asserting yourself doesn't have to look in a negative way. Just because you think that it is a negative thing, there are positive ways that you can assert yourself. So each number has wings, and sometimes they just are a nine, but sometimes they have wings. Wings are going to be the numbers beside them. And because nine is on the circle, the number beside nine is actually an eight and a one because the circle closes at that nine and one stage. So a nine wing eight, quite not common. That's not even the right English, but if you think about it, nines are all about the peace and eights are very intense and very challenging. So you typically don't see someone who wants a challenge when they're a type nine. However, I do have some friends who are nine wing eights and they're awesome, amazing leaders and great people. They are nicknamed the referee. They are more outgoing, assertive, anti authoritarian, and may vacillate between the confrontational and being more at peace. So they know how to work with a larger group, maybe the politics and whatnot, but they do have that inner struggle because of just how they're hardwired. That's not who I married, though. I married a nine wing one. Now, he's such a nine that he didn't even know. He said, well, I relate to this one today. But then he's a lot of traits that are like ones, so many to the point where I was like, are you sure you're not a one? And he goes, maybe I am. But I'll tell you this, if you listen to our type 1 podcast that we did in episode 2, type 1s know. They don't vacillate between the two. There's right and there's wrong. There is none of this. Today I feel like this. This is just always a thing. Now the nickname for nine wing one, funnily enough, is the dreamer, which I don't really consider my husband the dreamer. That's why these labels sometimes aren't accurate. You want to just stick with the numbers. So they're more introverted, orderly, idealistic, critical, emotionally controlled, focused, and compliant. And I definitely see those characteristics of my husband. However, I also see a lot of the ones and the orderly and the perfectionism, just like it says. He is definitely more introverted. However, over time, I've seen him become more social. And we'll talk about that in some other episodes where as you kind of grow in life and change, there are ways that you can display differently, though your type will never change because your core fear and motivations don't ever change, but how you display may change. And I can't wait to get into that because it just is so eye-opening as you kind of learn more and more about how you can look in different ways in different times of your life. Now, the center of intelligence that type nines fall under is the gut. So if you remember, the ones were a gut instinct, and so are eights. Now, their common traits and focus with all the gut instinct is that they tend to engage in their life through their guts and they know their bodies know before their hearts and their minds. They also want control, justice, and fairness. They not always are political, but they do always want what's right. And they have issues with aggression or repression, and they struggle with anger or rage. Now, all three triad groups. So, triads are groupings of three. The centers of intelligence is a triad. So, 891 is gut, 234 is the heart, 567 is the mind. Of each of those triads, there is one that's a repressed center. So, 3, 6, and 9s are all repressed in the areas that they are supposed to be heavy in. So, for example, a 3 is in the heart feelings triad. However, they're repressed. So sometimes they're actually not completely aware of all of their feelings. Like a 9 in this situation, they are usually more repressed with the anger. So, anger is the primary emotion of an 8, 9, and a 1. Sometimes as an 8, I forget there are other emotions. But anger sits at the forefront of an 8, whereas the 9s have it kind of asleep. They're just ignoring it. They don't feel like they're angry. But 1s just have it repressed because they think they know it's wrong to be angry. Doesn't mean they don't feel angry, but their emotions for them, that's the first one. So while 9s have the ability to be guided instinctually, they in their fall asleep, they also disconnect from their own inner self. And so they get out of touch with who they are, what they like doing. Sometimes they feel guilty for doing their own thing because they feel like they've got to serve other people first. So do yourself a favor. If you around a 9, let them have a voice, let them speak up. And as 9s, you need to understand that when you speak up for yourself, it is not a bad thing. However, the way you speak is important. I think sometimes 9s are so repressed from sharing that in order for them to feel heard, they feel like they need to voice it in a way that is not very kind sometimes. And so it's important that you understand that. Now, we talk about arrows in each episode so far as we do the overview of the Enneagram. And if you haven't heard about what the Enneagram is, make sure you tune into the first episode where we talk about the overview. But the arrows are what we move towards when we're in growth mode and when we are in stress. So we take on the negative traits as a certain number when we're in stress. So as a type 9, when you are stressed, you move in towards the unhealthy traits of a 6, which are becoming overcommitted, anxious and worried, predicting worst case scenarios, being irritable, defensive, and stubborn, and more black and white thinking. Now, you may not see all of these. I don't see this all the time in my husband, but I do see a lot of them when he is in stress. Now, you also don't forget when you're in stress, you're also going to move to your own negative traits of a 9, right? So that whole vegging out, zoning out, not paying attention really to yourself, you have to remember that's also part of it. And type 9s, when you move into growth, you move into the healthy traits of a 3. So you're self developing, which actually is interesting because then you start to want to learn about the self awareness journey. And I have seen that in my husband too, because he starts to understand, hey, so apparently I'm asleep to myself. And so this is important. I didn't tell him he was asleep to himself. He read this and he realized that this is something that was how a 9 is wired. They become more energetic, confident and assertive, goal orientative, and decisive. So, yes, we are known to be very energetic, our coupling, because I have all these dreams and then he helps me implement them. He's very handy and then he can do the things. And we seem to do things at a very quick pace. And he, as a 9, is actually able to keep up with my crazy energy as an 8. And I know that sometimes people think 9s don't have energy, but that is not true. Not all 9s look the same. So don't forget that. There are 9s that have a lot of energy, especially when they're in health. They're able to do all the things at a much faster pace than you would actually imagine yourself. So highly encourage you, don't put yourself in a bubble. This is not our box. This is not a thing to say, oh, well, I'm this way, therefore I am that. We are all built uniquely different. And I think it's really cool that we can use a tool like this to start to identify so you can actually do some growing. And if you are a 9 and you're still listening, I applaud you because this is a hard conversation to have, even just listening to kind of think and disrupting your own inner peace of like, is this me? Do I have these traits? Can I relate to this? I don't know. Can you or can you not? That's really important. Now, I want to talk to you about how your defining traits can impact your YouTube endeavors because you may be on the more introverted side, not that crazy energy that a 7 has. You still have energy. And you have to remember the thing I love about YouTube is you attract your tribe. I've said this so many times. I love it because you bring the people that want to work with you. So the more you're able to put yourself out there, to educate people, to let them know, because you don't need to always entertain. You can educate people. And I think that's where I really grew my YouTube channel because I could understand how to educate. And as a 9, you're really good at educating other people because you're able to do so in a way that doesn't offend people. Me as an 8, sometimes I educate and I offend people, but that's okay because if I offend you, then you're probably not going to be the one that I want to work with. But as a 9, the way that you're able to give that sense of peace and security because those people know you've got their back and you can bring that sense of calmness to the situation that they need. They need that in buying their house or selling their house. You can really use that in your relationship developing when you talk to your YouTube clients in a buyer consult. When you're creating videos, make sure you create videos that you're comfortable with, that don't disrupt your natural wiring. If it doesn't work naturally for you, it's going to feel very weird. So, and people will see it, right? You are a natural person that can see all perspectives. So maybe the videos that talk about pros and cons is really good because you're sharing all the different perspectives of why moving to the city is good or bad. Maybe you could talk about the pros and cons of building a new house. All these types of things to share your natural tendencies of how you work is going to really help people buy into who you are and understand you. And that's another empowering thing about YouTube. Your voice is being heard. It is a way for your voice to be heard. And it's validating when people reach out to you because they're listening to you. These are people that are your people because they hear you out and your voice really matters to them. So I think YouTube can be very powerful for someone who's a type 9. Now, some of the strategies to embrace your personal vision and creativity in content creation. So as you try to think, what can I do? What videos can I produce? What is my vision? This is where the self awareness journey is so important. As you learn about yourself, and I know you have to disrupt the piece a little bit to figure out, okay, let's get out of our comfort zone right now and just figure out and look inside, see who we are. And it doesn't have to be conflict, right? It can be, what is it that I really am good at, what I like to do? I understand for you that this might be it might cause conflict because you're comfortable where you are and you don't want to disrupt it. But I'm going to challenge you as a challenger. If you stay in your comfort zone, how are you ever going to grow and level up? It's very difficult to level up and get to the next level to help more families if you just stay in your comfort zone. So just think about that for a little bit and understand. I do understand. Here's another thing about type 9s. Should have been speaking a lot slower. Type 9s tend to process the world slower, and that's okay. It sometimes drives me crazy, and I have to listen to everything at 2x speed, but type 9s, maybe 3x speed would be more helpful for me. So understand as a type 9, if you're working with someone who is more intense, try to speak quicker. If you are working with another person that's similar to you, just speak your normal voice and they'll appreciate it a lot. So I think it's important to understand that as well. 9s also tend to seek acceptance and connection and positive energy. So when you are relating to others, whether you're building a team or you're looking for a team to join or aligning yourself and collaborating with other realtors, these are some of the things that you might want to do. It says that you'll thrive when you have an organic connection. So it's not something that's forced and you respect their independence and have gentleness and communication. I think that's really valuable. And just in terms of some potential strengths and weaknesses when it comes to the YouTube and being a realtor, your strengths is that you work really good on a team because you don't need that spotlight. However, that can be a failing, if that's the right word, when it comes to YouTube, because the spotlight's definitely on you. And you could do things where you're featuring other businesses and putting a spotlight on them. But remember with YouTube, people want to relate to the person. So I would, even though you don't want to be in the spotlight, you will need to be a little bit because that's how you're going to get more known and more trusted. Creating structures and predictability systems and routines to keep work easy and uncomplicated is really important. Structure is important for type 9s because otherwise they kind of procrastinate and they just kind of waste their time on other things. So maybe you're like, oh, I'm going to work on my email list instead. And now email list is important, of course, but you're not working on the email list because that's actually what you should be doing. You're avoiding filming those videos because you don't want to get in front of that video camera. But don't forget, that's a video camera. No one's actually looking at you on the other side. So it's actually a really good opportunity for you to have yourself be heard and seen. So because your strengths is helping all the voices at the table be heard and bring unity amongst groups, use that in your strategy for YouTube as you think about the content types that you're going to have, the channel that you're going to build, the vision and what you want to see this YouTube channel be. Think about that. Think about being authentic to your YouTube audience is being you. And you need to know who you are in order to be you. So don't feel like you have to be somebody else to be successful. Don't go and watch, oh, this person does this, so therefore I should be doing that because that's successful. There's a trick for you here. When it comes to developing a strong YouTube channel, you've got to try things out And then when you have some videos on your YouTube channel and you've been consistent, you can then go to your analytics and see what's actually performing better. Because for you, this other type of video might be performing better than someone else's type of video because it's, again, your audience. And so you want your audience to see you. I think it's important for you to channel your inner, you're so patient already. So that's perfect trait for building up a YouTube channel. You just got to be consistent. And in order to be consistent, I think as a nine, what my observation is, create a system. Create a system so that you can be consistent. And then we can look at your analytics and kind of continue to change that. The same thing as when it comes to the rest of your real estate business. If you have a system for all of the things that you do, whether it's buying a house, selling a house with clients, or getting clients, whether you're helping your sphere, it's really important that you have those because type nines tend to need that, right? You have a positive outlook, which is really great, but you're also just like sevens don't like conflict. Um, it's important that you understand that there sometimes is a problem and don't deny it because then it's going to make it really difficult for you to help your clients if you ignore the fact that there's a problem. And you want to make sure the agents on the other side also know that you guys can just be solution focused. And some of the things I want to leave you with is understand that you're wired to think your presence or voice doesn't matter. That's how you're hardwired. You think you're not supposed to matter, but you do matter. So just because you are hardwired for that doesn't mean it's true. And that's a big, big, big one. I would say, if anything, that's the one I want you to hear the most. The other types, I talk about a few different ones. But I think for me, the big one I want to leave with you, type nines, is that your presence does matter. Your vision matters. You're able to do far more than you think you can. And people really love being around you. So, if anything you're going to take away today, make sure that you do understand that you're hardwired to think your presence doesn't matter and your voice doesn't matter. But then acknowledge that that's not the truth and that your voice does matter and that we can't wait to hear and see from our type nines. If you have any questions or specific topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out to us on our website or social media channels, melodywilson.ca. Together, let's unlock the potential within you and thrive in both your real estate career and motherhood.